Hi everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Ferocious Finance, presented by Magic Gathering Strat. As always, I'm your host, Ferocious Llama. And I just want to tell everybody, today we're going to be talking about two issues that I've gotten a lot of comments about. Bots and Vintage Masters, whether you should invest, should not invest, how you should invest in Vintage Masters. So, those are two really big issues that I've gotten a lot of comments on, over the course of the last several shows. So we're going to go ahead and talk about those today. I don't have any specific card recommendations this week. Sorry about that. But I thought these were some really important issues that a lot of people liked and wanted to hear about. So this is what we're talking about, and let's get started. Alright, here's a list of 18 bots that we recommend from the Magic Gathering Strat team and the Ferocious Finance teams. We got together and we talked about what are some of the best bots to use. And this is the list we came up with. There are 18 bots here. I'm not going to read you the names because if I'm going to do that, I might as well get some cards and read you what they do, which I'm not doing. So these are all going to be listed in the show notes, so don't worry about pausing the video. And two of my personal favorites are Quarterofsix bot and MTGO Bazaar. They seem to have most everything you're looking for. Well, at least everything I'm looking for. They are a little bit slightly more expensive, but they're not retail bots, which I'll get to in a moment. But we recommend all these 18 bots. They're all great. They don't do anything shady. They give you fair prices on cards when you're buying and you're selling. So these are some of the bots we use. We recommend them. Alright, and some penny bots are bots you can buy lots of cards for real cheap. Bulking, Crazy Penny Bot, and Quarter Penny Bot. And I do want to disclose that Dan, who works here at Magic Gathering Strat and is also on the Ferocious Finance team, owns Quarter Penny Bot. So just so everybody knows, those are just 3 good bots to buy a lot of inexpensive cards in bulk. These next 2 bots are MTGO Traders and MTGO Academy. MTGO Traders, they have a whole mess of bots. They have like 10 or 11. MTGO Academy also. But the reason I mention these is they're what I call retail bots. Now, if you want a card right now, go to one of them because they'll have it. They have nearly everything. There have only been a couple of times where I was like, ooh, I want this card for this deck, and I couldn't find it somewhere. From one of these two bots. So they charge like full retail, like MTG Goldfish, like full price, but they have everything. So I recommend them. They got nearly everything. If you're looking for something, you need it now, don't want to shop around, don't want to deal with it, go to one of these 2. Alright, moving on to Vintage Masters. First thing I'm going to talk about are the quote-unquote expensive cards in Vintage Masters. We have Underground Sea and Jace the Mind Sculptor. I just want to point out, this is a graph that I got from mtggoldfish.com. It's where they have great listing of prices, so go over there, check it out. Anyway, when we look at Underground Sea and Jace, both of them, they started high and then dropped way down and then went way up when Vintage Masters came out and then kind of dropped down, and then they were kind of erratic. But look, it looks like little by little the prices are beginning to smooth out. And I think that the reason they're smoothing out is that the hysteria with, Vintage Masters new set, I call it the shiny new thing theory, where it seems like a lot of people online, when there's something new that's shiny out, they want it, and it doesn't matter what the cost is, and so they get it, and that causes these price spikes, and then, they get it, and then nobody buys it, and then it just sort of settles down. Anyway, it looks like over time, with Underground Sea and Jace both, the fluctuations are getting smaller and smaller and smaller until one day, it'll of course never happen, but in theory, it would ultimately just be like a flat line that's somewhere in between the high point and the low point. Well, if you look at Underground Sea, it's actually at the very lowest point. Not the very, very lowest point, but the almost lowest point. Close enough to the lowest point to say it's at its lowest point. And same thing with Jace, is it's not at its very lowest point, but its fluctuations are starting to slow down. They're getting smaller, is what I mean. And it seems like the cards are kind of at the lower end of that price spectrum. So that was just an observation I made about the kind of the chase cards, like the blue dual lands, Jace, Force of Will, Mana Drain, not quite as much, but all those kinds of cards. Now let's take a look at some of the inexpensive cards from Vintage Masters, like Dack Fayden and Oath of Druids. Dack started very, very high, and that's because the paper version is expensive. And the price kind of dropped because it wasn't that good. But when you look at its trend, it's not at its lowest point. June 22nd to like July 6th, it was lower at its lowest point, and now it's kind of starting to creep back up. And I've noticed that. I remember when it was under $4. It was like $3.75, and I was like, oh, I'm picking up Dack. But anyway, if you notice, he's trending upward. That's happening with other cards like Oath of Druids that started up obviously not as high, and then it dropped like most everything did before Vintage Masters released, and then it's kind of been erratic. But when you look at it from about the same time period, well, like June, the end of June, over to today, it's trending upward. And I think the reason for that is that, the Vintage Masters market is kind of flattening out, which is what happens after something's been out for a while. So what does it mean that the expensive cards are getting cheaper and the cheap cards are getting more expensive? Well, I'll tell you what it means. It's a sign of stability in the market. Stability in the market comes from the card prices being less erratic. And erratic card behavior can be tracked by, if you look at the trends of the card pricing and then do what we call in statistics, if any of you know statistics, it's a regression line. And what it is, it's the least distance between, if you draw one single line with the least total distance between the line and each point. And it's very complex to calculate, so you use a computer. But the point is that the closer the prices get together, it's not that they're getting close together that's relevant, it's that they're trends, clearly trends that are occurring, and it seems like the erratic behavior of the card pricing is getting less erratic, more stable, which is good. So it looks like Vintage is going to take off. It looks like the cards are approaching more, they're moving towards their actual market price, what they're actually going to be. So go ahead and invest in Vintage Masters, but remember to stay diversified, because you never know when the next Skull Clamp's going to come out, or the next Stoneforge Mystic's going to come out, or the next Mental Misstep and Legacy is going to come out, or the next Bloodbraid Elf is going to come out, in Modern. So, or the next Seething Song in Modern. All those kinds of cards that make Storm wasn't fun to play against, Jund wasn't fun to play against with Bloodbraid Elf. Mental Misstep was just so degenerate. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys remember when it was legal in Legacy, it was kind of laughable. And then if any of you guys played way back in the old days, when I used to play a lot of Standard, it was Skull Clamp during Mirrodin Block, and it was kind of one of those things where it wasn't fun to play because everybody knew, hey, whoever draws the first Skull Clamp wins the game. That's just how it works. So anyway, you never know when something like that's going to happen to any of the formats. So that's why I say stay diversified in the formats, stay diversified in the cards. So, that's just good investing, guys. And, if someone said, hey, I want to put a good chunk of my money into Vintage Masters, I'd say, okay, that's not a bad idea. But one other thing you have to remember about Vintage Masters is if you just have some money sitting aside that you're not going to invest, or you have no intention of investing, but you're like, I'm just looking for somewhere to put it. Like putting it in a savings account to get, 3% annual interest on it. That's fine. Go ahead and do that. But what you got to remember is Vintage Masters is a long-term investment. So don't think you're going to get your money back anytime soon. But when you do get it back, it'll be a good return. It'll be a respectable return. But it's definitely a long-term thing. It's going to be till... I would say you're probably not going to want to sell your Vintage Masters until after Vintage Masters goes off sale. So that'll be September 2015. So if you want to put your money into something for that long, go for it. But otherwise, and stay diversified, please. That's the one thing I can say. I get a lot of comments, people saying, oh, I'm just going to put all my money in Vintage Masters. Yeah, that's okay, but it's not the best idea because, you're going to have all your money tied up for a long period of time. There's no time to make other investments. So, anyway, that's kind of my take on what's going on with Vintage Masters. If you guys see any trends or think anything is interesting about Vintage Masters, go ahead, tell me, or ask me any questions you have about Vintage Masters, and I'll be happy to answer them in an upcoming episode. That's going to do it for episode 5 of Ferocious Finance, presented by Magic Gathering Strat. If you guys have any ideas you want that you want me to talk about in upcoming episodes, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, what topics you want to hear about, what topics you don't want to hear about, and I'll do shows on whatever topics you guys want to hear about. Next week I'm going to talk about part of the show will be about market manipulation, because that is one of my favorite topics, and I got a lot of comments asking me to talk about it more. So I'll tell you how it's done, how you can do it, and how to abuse it to get ahead. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Until next week, I'll see you guys later.